Honorable Mayor is here, and I know that we have a huge crowd and some big celebrating to do, so I want to welcome you to the groundbreaking for 88 Broadway and 705 Davis Street. So I'm Cynthia Parker, and I'm the president and CEO of Bridge Housing, and I am the co-host today with our partner JSCO, John Stewart, who's also going to say a few words. But what I want to do is acknowledge all of the people that we have here in the audience who have helped us get here today. So with us we have Mayor London Breed, our honorable and esteemed mayor. Welcome. We have Supervisor Aaron Peskin, who's been a big supporter, and thank you, Supervisor Peskin. We have Elaine Forbes, who's the Executive Director for the Port of San Francisco. Thank you for coming and your help. We have Liz Minick from Bank of America. Liz, there you are. Thanks for coming. We have Bruce Cantor, who's a board member of the North Beach Neighbors and the Northeast Waterfront Advisory Group. Bruce? And we have Bob Harrier, who's a board member of the Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association. So thank you for coming. You know, this group who's sitting here today really does represent sort of a neighborhood inside of a village, the village of San Francisco, and two neighborhood associations, a waterfront advisory group, and partners with the city, with the Mayor's Office of Housing, and partners between Bridge Housing and JSCO have really made this happen with a lot of outreach that occurred during the development period. I know John Stewart's going to comment on some of this, but there were over 26 neighborhood meetings, I believe, that took place that really made this happen. And I want to do a special shout out to John Stewart, our partner, who lives in this neighborhood and wanted to make sure that these two developments represented the values of this community, and I believe that they do. So thank you, John, for all of your hard work and forever your partnership with us. When this RFP came out from the city of San Francisco, I ran into Jack Gardner, who's the other principal at JSCO, and he said, you know, we did North Beach together and it was such a success. Do you think it's time to get the band back together and respond to this RFP? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we did, and we were selected, and frankly, I think that we were the right team to pull this project together. It has made a big difference to this neighborhood for all the reasons I just said, 26 meetings, resident developer, and a commitment to really make this happen. I wanted to also acknowledge some special shout outs to, both the city, Mayor, thank you so much for your commitment to affordable housing and to these kinds of developments. This project is special because it is one of the few that has really said, we're going to house both seniors in a senior development and families and have an income mix that represents both formerly homeless people as well as people up to median income, 120% of median income, kind of the missing middle. And that doesn't happen very often. And I believe completely that it will be a success because we've all worked so hard to make it so, and it represents the values of this community. So that's why we're here today. We're celebrating that, and we're also celebrating the fact that we need to actually get more housing in the ground because we need that housing here in this city. So with that, I'm not going to steal all the thunder. We have a lot of speakers here today. And with that, what I do want to do is invite our lovely mayor to come up. She has the values and the gumption to make affordable housing so present in the city. And thank you, Mayor. Please come up and say a few words.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. It is so great to be here today with all of you because we know, John, that this project was a long time coming. We worked really hard in this city to try and repurpose this whole waterfront. Some of you probably were around during the '89 earthquake. I know I certainly was. And we remember when there used to be a freeway, and look at how beautiful and how amazing our waterfront has become over the years, with so many incredible people, so many incredible businesses, and yes, a lot of housing. And here is an opportunity for us to provide 178 units of affordable housing for families and seniors. This is absolutely amazing. And let me just also say that last year it was brought to my attention that for the senior developments that were being placed here at 735 Davis Street, there were still so many seniors who didn't meet the minimum income qualifications, because we know that there are a lot of different challenges with affordability in San Francisco. People who are low, extremely low, people who are just exiting homelessness, those who just meet the bare minimum qualifications, and sometimes those who exceed it by just a little bit. It's why we have to change how we provide affordable housing in San Francisco. And in fact, when I discovered that this was the case, we, along with the Mayor's Office of Housing under the leadership of Kate Hartley, were able to identify revenues in order to buy down the affordability so that more residents who are in this community can actually qualify for the affordable housing in the communities that they live. And so I want to thank you, Kate, for your leadership on that effort, because we are going to truly have mixed income of diverse communities living here in these 178 units. I get really excited when I'm able to come to a groundbreaking, because it means that the project is almost done. So Supervisor Peskin, former president of the board, but representative of this district, you know I'm going to need your help to make sure that as we break ground on this project, we don't want any delays, we don't want any challenges, we don't want any issues, because we need this housing, and one day delay is a one-day denial of the people that we know need this housing the most. And I gotta say that today we announced we did a press conference for a $600 million affordable housing bond, the largest affordable housing bond in the history of this city, that the Board of Supervisors is going to be voting on unanimously today to put on the ballot. And we're going to do so without raising property taxes, in a very responsible way, which is how we should be handling the cities and the taxpayers' money in our city. But it means a lot, because we know that there are challenges with affordability in our city. And we know that we have to work harder and faster to get these much needed affordable housing units built. People are counting on us to make good decisions and to not allow bureaucracy to get in the way of much needed affordable housing. So thank you to everyone who is joining us here today, because those 178 seniors and families, when they move into those units, when they're looking out their windows, when they're cooking dinner on their new stoves, can you think about how it might feel, especially if you didn't even have housing in the first place, if you live in an SRO and you don't even have a kitchen, what this is going to mean to the people who are going to be able to live right here in this beautiful, amazing community, which once consisted of darkness and a freeway and is now open with all of the light and incredible views, a place where everyone wants to live in San Francisco, and they will be a part of the future of this great city. No one will be left behind as a result of this great project. So thank you to John Stewart and John Stewart Company. Thank you so much to Bridge Housing and Cynthia, to Kate, to the Supervisor Peskin, and all the community members and the people who helped to make this possible. This is truly San Francisco at its best, and there is more to come. Thank you all so much. Sorry. I want to introduce John Stewart, but let me just say that I met John Stewart over 20 years ago. And I used to work at Treasure Island, and some of you remember when that housing was empty and it was vacated by the Navy, and we had the task of rehabilitating those units and moving formerly homeless veterans, formerly homeless families, and other people of all income levels into Treasure Island. The partnership with John Stewart Company was not just a partnership that helped to rehabilitate those units, They also helped to make sure that those formerly homeless families and veterans had working utilities, that they had coffee makers and dishes and beds and sheets and all the things that so many people may take for granted, but these were people who were starting their lives over, and the person who led that effort, without being asked to do so, was John Stewart himself. And so, ladies and gentlemen, John Stewart of John Stewart Company.
The mayor has been drinking early. We'll talk later. Thanks very much. As Ed Lee was wont to say, I'll keep this short because I am short. That was his big one-liner. Just a few comments. Cynthia has covered really what I wanted to speak about. I think 2 or 3 things. First, I get a lot of questions on the piles that were sinking into the ground at 90 feet and 60 feet. They're not impact piles the way it has occurred in many sites. These are auguring. They are soundless. They're very sensitive to the neighbors because they're not impact piles. So there are going to be 170 of them, and we're very sensitive to the neighbors. And also, we don't want to repeat. We got the memo on the Millennium Towers, and we're going to bedrock. It seemed like a good idea. Also, people have asked me about those cobblestones. It turns out, although we did a ton of work with the historic preservation people, we didn't gamble on what we found below at about 8 or 10 feet, circa 1870 or so. We found high heel shoes, planks, bottles. The elixir of good cheer was there after the Civil War, and spades. And we also found a whole series of red caps which said, "Make America Great Again." And we're going to be selling them later on to enhance our financial balance sheet on this deal. On the subject of process, I think we're particularly proud of the fact that over 4 plus almost 5 years, we had 25 public meetings involving a myriad number of local involvement, various people that are, you can see, authorities and housing entities that all had a stake in this thing, and they all came out and they all spoke their piece, which I will, in closing, do a few shout outs. There is something which I would call District 3 deja vu. And I'm looking at Aaron now because 17 years ago, a young supervisor, along with a young mayor at the time, Miss Willie Brown, started working on a project called North Beach Place. It's sort of the it's not the flip side. It's a project has great similarity what you see today. For those of you that are a little long in the tooth, you might remember that project. So the Bay and Taylor, North Beach Place. It also was affordable. It had mixed income, mixed use, and mixed age. This does. It had a ground lease. We have too, so there. And one of the things that strikes me about it is a certain symmetry because Aaron Peskin, I think, really made a statement because he was boots on the ground, went to every meeting, very supportive of that project as he was then and he is now. It's my pleasure to introduce the supervisor.
Mayor Breed, Ms. Parker, Mr. Stewart, to your respective organizations, but most importantly to the community. And amongst those, and first and foremost amongst those, the Barbary Coast neighbors. It is true that almost 20 years ago I attended all of those meetings at North Beach Place, but thankfully I attended few, if any, in this particular project. But Mr. Cantner did, Mr. Harrer did, Ms. Taylor did, and I want to say they made it a better project. That neighborhood involvement made this a better project. Let me say a few words about what my mayor said. and it is the history of the Embarcadero Freeway, which was, by all accounts, a terrible urban planning mistake. And then in 1989, after the Loma Prieta earthquake, we had a mayor who had the courage to rip that thing down. And by the time then State Senator Quentin Kopp transferred the state properties to the city and county of San Francisco for $1 American, Willie Brown was mayor. And there was a little local neighborhood fight about what we were going to do with those parcels. One was going to be a police station, one was going to be a butterfly museum, one was going to be affordable housing. I am pleased to say that today they are all affordable housing for the city and county of San Francisco. That is remarkable. Now, it is true that I wanted this site, even though my friends at the Barbary Coast Neighbors disagreed, to be a temporary navigation site, but the mayor and I and Supervisor Haney have teamed up to find one not so far away. And I also want to agree with the mayor that affordable housing is actually not that affordable. And we all know the numbers that we just saw are homeless counts, and it's not just San Francisco, it's Seattle, it's Portland, it's Los Angeles, continue to rise. So here are 53 units that are going to keep some of my seniors, and this is the district that has the highest percentage of seniors in the city and county of San Francisco, from being homeless. But you want to know what? It's not affordable to many of our seniors, which is precisely why Ms. Hartley, Mayor Breed, President Yee, and I teamed up to create what we call SOS, Senior Operating Subsidies, which is in this year's budget for shallow subsidies for seniors so they can actually continue to live and age in place. This is a great day for the city and county of San Francisco, one and all, particularly to the workers who are building this thing. Congratulations. Am I supposed to ask you that? Oh. All right. Now, this is a weird jurisdictional situation, which is, you all think that it's the city and county of San Francisco, but in reality, there are two owners of these properties. The Port of San Francisco, which is actually lands that are under the jurisdiction of the state of California, held in trust by the city and county of San Francisco, and lands owned by the Department of Public Works. Now, weirdly enough, the port land is inland, and the public works land is closer to the water, which I've never figured out. But instrumental to this entire project was the Port of the City and County of San Francisco, their executive director, Ms. Elaine Forbes.
Hello, everyone. It's very great to be here today. We all love a groundbreaking. I want to acknowledge my Port Commissioner, Gail Gilman, in the audience. As you know, the Port manages 7.5 miles of shoreline property for the benefit of the public. And our future is very bright as we move in our transformational work since the Loma Prieta Freeway came down. But nothing makes us more proud than to use Port land to welcome the neighbors and residents who will come and live here and enjoy this waterfront community. We are so proud to be part of the solution to what is an affordable housing crisis. And our mayor is leading the charge, and all her city departments are looking for very creative solutions to solve this problem. I want to acknowledge, and Supervisor Peskin knows this very well, it takes the Port quite a long time to figure out what to do with its property. And 88 Broadway was a very, very long conversation. And it was actually the community residents who said, we would like to use these underused lots that you're using for parking for housing. And so we began a conversation with the state legislature. Then Supervisor Amiano sponsored a bill, AB 2649, that allowed us to provide housing on 88 Broadway. And this long tradition started really with Delancey Street, but here's another example of where we can welcome low, mod, formerly homeless, seniors to our waterfront. This is a city that opens its waterfront to everyone. No community should be excluded from our waterfront. I'd also really, again, like to thank the community. For us, the Northeast Waterfront Advisory Group, helped us provide standards for 88 Broadway. It was a very patient process, and it did improve the project. And it's that kind of collaboration, that kind of problem solving that got us here today. And there's a lot of Port staffers in the audience that have been working on this for some time, so congratulations to you all. We love to be here today and celebrate with you. Thank you so much, and I'd like to introduce Liz Minick from the Bank of America.
Good afternoon, everyone, and what a glorious afternoon do we have for this fabulous day today and yet another groundbreaking to celebrate. Bank of America was founded in this very city in 1904 and has a long history of helping people get in homes and working towards affordable housing. From the work after the 1906 earthquake to our most recent projects with the San Francisco RAD Commission and the rehabilitation of over 3,500 units across 29 properties, for which we financed over $2.2 billion. For this properties, or two properties that we're here to discuss today, Bank of America has provided over $133 million in financing. I'd like to thank a few people as well. So first, to all of our Bank of America teams that continue their tireless efforts on affordable housing here in our city, our longstanding partnership with both Bridge Housing and the John Stewart Company. Of course, Mayor Breed, thank you as always, Supervisor Peskin, and Kate in your office. So thank you so much. And now I will introduce Bruno Cantor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I represent North Beach Neighbors, and we were very much involved with some of the other community groups in the long process of the design of this building. It's just incredible that we're going to see more family and senior housing here, which is really important to keep our city diverse. We certainly need more of them. It also includes a child care facility, so that's why I have my daughter here, Simone, who has become a connoisseur of all the wonderful playgrounds we have in the city. And since this child care facility will have a playground, I think she's going to want to check that out. Is that right, Simone? Okay. Special thanks to the Mayor's Office of Housing and for all the great inclusivity we had during this process. And of course, John Stewart's wonderful team, including us along every step of the way, met countless meetings. Mayor, of course, our supervisor, Aaron Peskin, and the previous supervisor, Julie Christensen, who really got this project going for us. Again, just really impressed with the community outreach from the early stages of the project. The team reacted to community concerns along the way and modified the project to a very mature building, which you see on these drawings here today. In particular, we're really impressed with the ground level uses for the community, the services, retail, etc., that activate the street. This is a great example of how a project should happen. Don't you think so, Simone? All right. Well, I'll end it here with introducing one of our Barbary Coast representatives, Bob Harrer. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. Good afternoon, everybody. I know it's hot, so I'll try to be as brief as I possibly can. First of all, I want to say that on behalf of the Barbary Coast Neighborhood Association, I'm very happy to be here today as this project starts to take almost a concrete step forward to bring some badly needed housing here to San Francisco. And I also want to express my sincere appreciation to the Port and the Mayor's Office of Housing for all the opportunities that they gave to listen to the neighborhood and to work with us and to resolve, well, not resolve, but to work with us to help design a project that really will work for the neighborhood. I think there were many discussions and meetings and a number of outcomes that are very positive, but two I'd like to mention in particular. First of all, if we look at the residents, not only will this housing unit have room and units designated for the formerly homeless and low income, but it will also have units for the middle income households. And this is a first in San Francisco. It's my understanding that this will be the first large multifamily unit for affordable housing that will have units for the middle income households. And I think everybody should be aware of the shrinking population that we have with the middle income population in this town. Secondly, I think the development of the ground floor is another real positive outcome. Rather than having a large parking garage that probably wouldn't add much to the ambience of the neighborhood, we have some retail and, as Bruno mentioned, child care for the children. All of this will serve to really activate this neighborhood further. I think it will create then a much more pleasant experience along this area of Broadway. And then finally, I want to mention certainly our appreciation to the John Stewart Company and Bridge Housing. The design is attractive. They've gone to a number of extra measures to make sure it's not a boring institutional structure. And I certainly appreciate all the different opportunities that they have provided for the neighborhood to give some input. So with that, I'll just close by saying I think this project is a tremendous asset, will be a tremendous asset to the neighborhood, and it will make this stretch of Broadway even more inviting. And so with that, I am done, and I will let John Stewart handle the closing of this ceremony.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have to add one codicil to what's been said here. We observe neighborhood reactions to the concept of formerly homeless, and they run screaming from the room. There's lots of opposition. And this project, with the 6 entities that reviewed all of our designs and plans and our sociology, not once did I hear anybody say, oh wow, you're going to have formerly homeless? There'll be 37 formerly homeless? That to me was a first. And also, I think they like the idea of combining the two. That hybrid between formerly homeless, making general assistance 30% of AMI, and people making $10,000 a month will be a grand, interesting social experiment that we as a company have not tried before, and I'm sure our supervisor will be making many calls to us. In fact, I can hear you now, Aaron. Your battery has gone dead. I will quickly say that there were a few other stars in the community. I just want to do a quick shout out to Stan Hayes, the Telegraph Hill Dwellers, had comments. Some of them were not always supportive, but they were always constructive. We appreciated that. It wasn't negative for its own sake. Thank you, Stan. Janet Crane, next SF, she can't be here today. Diana Taylor of the Barbary Coast, and Jay Wallace of Kenwood, who will be a neighbor of ours with Teatro Zinzano. We're very excited about that. The fabric of this neighborhood is going to change with that additional use. We all plan to go to dinner theater. Architect, LMS, Bill Liddy, and Aaron Thornton, and we were in every one of the 25 public meetings that we had over 4 years. And they'll bore you to death talking about codes, but they're really very nice people at heart. The lenders, we've already talked about that. B of A, Barings Multifamily Capital, and the woman with the money, Kate Hartley and Mo, thank you, and thank you, Miss Mayor. The contractor, what can you say? Cahill happened to be the contractor 17 years ago at North Beach Place. Actually, I think Howard Carlson was one of the supervisors then, and he still is. Now that's what I call a good employee retention. We have Alex Schaefer, Dan Brooks, Noel Seo, and of course Chuck Paley, who's one of our stars. He's fantastic. And the port, we've already dealt with that. Elaine Forbes, Ricky Chijani, and Michael Martin. He's the attorney that is can-do and makes things happen. Gail Gilman and Victor Macquis are on the commission, and they're here today, and thank you for attending. City staff are what we call our intrepids. They were with this thing from the beginning, and thank you, Mayor Breed, for causing them to be so totally active. I would start with Kate Hartley. Kudos to you. You were with this thing from the beginning. We appreciate it. Mara Blitzer, Faith Kirkpatrick, and Harry Wong. You got a great team. This thing never happens. It's an NFL cliche about team efforts, but I'm sorry, it's true. Lutheran Social Services, YMCA, Cushman and Wakefield are all going to be contributors to this. We do have a cafe and a restaurant going in here, and you're all expected to come and be big tippers when we open up that restaurant. On the bridge side, Jelani Dotson and Larry Pace, Brad Wiblin, and I have to say, I'm looking at Cynthia, now Marie DeBoer, give her a raise. She was fantastic.
I just did.
Yeah, okay, well, she paid me to say that. You owe me, Marie. In our shop, very quickly, Margaret Miller and Don Lesty, and of course, Jack Gardner have dedicated a large piece of their life to this. Lastly, there's some empty chairs and who represent back in the day. Olson Lee, Julie Christensen, Mark Cavanero, who did the original massing study, which was important to get people to buy in what this is going to look like. There'll be a big axis, a mid-block passageway, which I think you're going to love. And we'll have those famous cobblestones along with the Make America Great caps. And lastly, who I think is with us today, Mayor Ed Lee. He loved this project. I remember talking to him about it, but the week before he left us, it was his baby, and he made it happen. And what a great legacy, London. Fantastic for you to carry on. And don't think we don't appreciate it. Also, Supervisor Peskin. So with that, I stand between you and a free lunch. There is one occasionally. So we are now going to do the ground baking. Somebody needs to get a shovel. We need some earth. We'll do that, and then we'll all get a free lunch. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.